Hello and welcome to CIO Leadership Live in ASEAN. My name is James Henderson, Editorial Director of CIO based in Singapore, and I'll be your host today as we welcome Peter Tay, Chief Digital Officer at NTUC Income, who joins us today. Peter, how are you?
Hello, James. I'm good.
Good stuff. Glad to see you keeping well, and thank you for joining us today. And of course, our CIO 75 honoree as well in 2021. So congratulations on that as well.
Thank you.
Now, a couple of topics I'd like to talk to you about today. Peter, leading Chief Digital Officer in your field, and you're doing a lot of amazing work from an innovation standpoint. I want to touch two core areas. One, the innovation and the transformation, of course, but the leadership required as well to kind of make that happen. So maybe as a starting point, we'll get into the innovation. What's been happening over the last 12 to 24 months from an innovation standpoint at Income?
Well, the last 12 to 24 months has been exciting. And obviously, we are in uncharted times, right? And that the pandemic also kind of threw a curveball to most businesses. But I think we took the opportunity to really double down on innovations. And maybe I'll just like to very quickly share two key innovations, which in our opinion is a breakthrough to ourselves and what we think we can bring to the industry. And more importantly, I think it has it changes the way the organization think or respond, right? So maybe the first innovation I'd like to share really is what we call new business model in the world of insurance. And we have been doing this over the last couple of years. And one of the products we pushed to the market, we call it Snack. It's basically a micro insurance stackable product that covers protection, investment. What is more important is that this product is designed embedded within the lifestyle of consumer. What it means is basically you imagine a consumer swiping a credit card when make a purchase, and there they buy a micro insurance. They exercise using the Apple Health or Fitbit. Every 5,000 steps, they could actually get an insurance. And all this happened invisibly. Meaning the moment you get into the program, this basically kind of embedded within your lifestyle. This is an important breakthrough for us, primarily because I think myself and the team, when we first set this set up to do, is really to think about how do we change the very traditional mode of an insurance, where typically you will go through intermediaries and then and what people say most, right, is insurance is always sold and not bought, you know. And I think the challenge given to the team really is we actually have this discussion, right? What would happen if one day you could just literally take a public transport, you tap your card, and you are accumulating this insurance on a daily basis, right? And as we said, the moment we achieve that, the rest is really up for the imagination of the team. And that's how it transformed the way organizations think about things, right? Because Snack is a product that don't think about renewal, because there's no need to think about renewal. You just keep accumulating, and the first policy after 360 days, it kind of just decay off, and you know, it just continue stacking. Second, you decide, right? Start, stop, increase, decrease the premium. You tag onto an activity that you do every day or twice a day, or you tag on an activity that you do only weekly. It's up to you, right? So I think this really transformed the way we think about things, and it's important, right? To we are almost 52 years in Singapore, a very traditional, respected, reputable insurer in Singapore. But I think a product like that really transformed the way we see how we engage with consumer, right? And so this innovation to us is an important milestone for NTUC Income, right? And the second innovation, which I thought would be very useful to share in today's session, right, is really over the years of building up many of such product, and Snack being one of them that I just shared, is that we start to accumulate all these experiences as well as the tech assets, as well as the capability that we've built onto what we call insurance as a service platform. And we actually name it as a Hive by Income. We only launched it only about a couple of weeks back, actually. And the idea of Hive by Income really is, how can we take this tech capability as well as experience that we have built in Singapore? All the products are launched, tested, proven in Singapore. We go to the region, we get like-minded partners, an insurer, we work with ecosystem partners, and collaboratively, how do we bring this product from Singapore to the region in an asset-like way? Now, in the traditional world, insurance is not easy to scale in the region, right? It's purely because it's a brick and mortar business.
Yeah.
Even as you go build up the brick and mortar, you need to get a license. Regulations is another hurdle to cross. And last but not least, you need to build out a distribution force, which is the cornerstone of a traditional insurance, right? And this would take years to build, right? However, what we found is that with this new capability, now we have the advantage of going there. Again, the thinking will be very similar to what I shared earlier on Snack. Is how do we break the traditional mode of thinking, right? Because now I could go, even over the last 2 years, we have set up a partnership with a digital insurer, Jaga Diri in Indonesia. We have also signed an agreement with PTI, which is actually the third largest general insurer in Vietnam. And we have also signed up one, Vsure, which is a startup in Malaysia, right? This early foray into the region really is, we basically take a product, right? And this product in conversation is a droplet, which actually covers the rain when you take a ride hailing. When it rains, we'll cover the spike in cost, right? The ability to bring this product quickly over and work with an insurer, basically you tapping on their license, but we bring the tech, we bring the platform, right? We connect them up and then they go to market, right? This collaborative way has proven to be very, very workable for us. And now we are obviously in the state of thinking, how do we scale this, right? In fact, as we speak, just 2 days ago, I heard that our first policy get issued in Vietnam, right? This was already launched. So I think, again, the reason why sharing this two innovation in specific is because it transformed the way the organization now look at how do we engage the customer, and more importantly, how do we scale the business?
Two great examples there, and doing it in difficult circumstances, of course, in the last 12 to 24 months. Let's not forget that added caveat of COVID. But to your point there, Peter, and of the examples, you mentioned mindset at the start, incredibly hard to change in any organization. What was the motivation behind those two examples? I know there's a lot of other innovations that you're rolling out, but what's the motivation? Is it purely going where the customer goes and having that competitive differentiation, or is it the mindset, the need to change the business as well?
I would think two key considerations here, right? First is this is the team that really set up to see, can we really disrupt the traditional way where the insurance business is being done? Case in point, even for Snack, even for the way we think about regional, bringing the product regional, I think we like to call ourselves a future back approach, right? Really going in and see how does the future look like. Yeah. And what, James, interestingly, when you talk about the last 2 years, right? What was interesting is also the 2 years also brought about real opportunities for digital, as you would know, right? Now, most people live online, right? Literally, right? Basically, in a quarantine, or you just basically in a lockdown in a certain countries. Now, so these consumers, we begin to see literally lead their lives in the huge digital ecosystems. They buy groceries online, they do things online, they have the entertainment online, etc. So this, we see huge opportunities. The customers are ready, right? Now, if we could embed insurance and in a breakthrough way, like we described earlier, then we think the opportunity is really huge. And even after 2 years now, even as we start to normalize and we think we're talking about living with COVID, things are not going back to the same. Things are not going back to 2 years ago, right? And from here on, we can only see that the trajectory for such digital work or digital products, not just insurance, will be more and more in the face of the consumers. Yeah.
And you mentioned disrupting the industry, and by your own admission, you're disrupting yourself as well, right? Because in the industry, so you've made that change. Now, the uniqueness of the innovations and the products that you've shared, I mean, these are really bleeding edge in terms of the market. It's not just the innovation, but it's also the model, right? As you mentioned, insurance as a service. So you've got so many factors going in your favor here, I presume, in terms of a standout innovation that is different than anything else in the market.
I think for such work, this is a personal belief. I do think that you do have a first player advantage here, really. I think obviously you could, it's a strategy conversation. You decide to lead in this area of work, or would you want to be a laggard and see how things evolve before you start to invest? I think what we found for this area of work, or at least from experience, is that when you go into an untapped territory, what is most interesting that eventually drives the team, including myself, you have no other way but to get closer to the customers, because that is your only source where you can try to discover what the future looks like. Because in the traditional model, you tend to think that you already know, because that's how you build up your business, right?
Yeah.
And you look at it because there's a lot of wisdom that's accumulated over the years. And this is where you think about it as a present forward. You will just continue to improve from here, right? But you give it a jot, right? You think about it from a future back. Actually, the only source is the customers. That's the only source you can talk to. And what we bring to the table then is this whole spirit of trying to think about what will work for the future. Because of course, there's another school of thought which tell you that, oh, the customers may not know what they like at this point, right? Because they have been educated with the traditional model, etc. So I think it's a little bit of both, but what we felt most rewarding is actually the ability to quickly get closer to the customers. And I always think the organization that learns the faster wins the game. It's not about who is more techy, who is more innovative, Actually, it's who is learning faster, right? From our own experience, from our own experiments, as well as the customer. Yeah.
And it's almost forcing the hand, isn't it? You have to get as close as possible to the customer to move forward. Now, this kind of dovetails perfectly into the more leadership side and more you as an individual and as a chief digital officer. What have been those cultural, operational changes, structural changes? Because you mentioned, again, I keep going back to it, but mindset. We can talk about the innovation you've done at the customer side, but obviously that takes change in your side, right? In your team, the wider organization. What have been some of the, maybe hurdles is the wrong word, but what have been some of those roadblocks or barriers that you have overcome as you've changed? Because it's not easy for yourselves as well, is it?
I think it's spot on. I think even you think of a product like Snack, right? It is a novel proposition, and we are at the start of the journey. And if you think about before the product was launched, there's actually no existing data. There's no, based on this form of business model, it's almost impossible to price the risk if you think about it, right? People stacking up and then they come in and exit because ultimately insurance is supposed to be a pooling of risk, right? Yeah. But now we introduce a model that actually defies the traditional logic on how this is being priced. And everything requires new thinking, new pricing, new ways to think about marketing and distribution to the customers. And so a lot of experiments and tests needs to be conducted. So exactly the point, it is almost not possible to run it out from the traditional business because we do have a huge business book of business today, right? And we do have the customers who continue to be supported by this traditional business. Now, but if we think about the future, we think about possibilities of designing product that is cutting edge. There's even, I dare say, is slightly ahead of its time. That you must be prepared to curate and continue to fine-tune this model. And by the time the customer is ready, you are ready, right? It requires a brand new setup, right? We literally set up the shop 4.5 years now, coming to 5, a brand new team. We relocated the entire team from the head office. We set up shop elsewhere. More importantly is, until today, I personally believe that diversity is important, right? In fact, this is a team of very diverse individuals coming from backgrounds that is everything except insurance, right? We have bankers who join us, we have lawyers, we have startup owners, we have, you name it. People who just decided to see if you could design new things, out of the, So there is a huge aspect of this that it's just not form. A lot of people would think, you create a new face, especially for digital office, right? People say, oh yeah, you put a pool table, but nothing changes. But I think it's slightly, I think it's a more than that. The very fact is symbolic, right? The very fact that you pull out a team, you set out a shop, and you allow this team the mandate to reimagine things that in the past, there's a huge boundary around it. I think that's very empowering. And you'll be surprised at how the team from bottom-up innovation could surface, right? So I think this is one huge aspect that we need to think through. The second one, obviously, is a lot of this experiment in a way would run in conflict with today how business is being carried out. Right. So we need to respect that there will be certain alignment that needs to be done, right? And I think this is extremely important for anyone that's on this transformation journey. I think this is really important because it's not just about putting on a new lens and look at things. I think what is more significant and important is what you see from this new lens. How do you bring this back to the bigger audience? And how do you bring these things that you see? And how do you convince the wider audience that this is something that the organization should try, should go forward, should invest, should double down, right? So I think this is something that is not just about a team seeing new things and you start creating and then, you know, disrupting everybody out of it, right? I think it goes beyond that, right? Because you still must align with the mothership, if you call that, right?
Of course.
And continue this innovation journey. Yeah.
Now, you've hit the nail on the head there, Peter, because it moves perfectly into the individual yourself as a chief digital officer and leader in your field. Now, apart from offering, you know, free games of pool and bringing them along that way, how is that influence? You just shared on it there that, you know, you mentioned the word, the phrase defies logic, right? Which I'm guessing to get things to influence something that defies logic, I'm guessing that takes skill on your side. You just mentioned there how you've built it out. How are you getting these projects or these ideas over the line in a way, in terms of your influence as a leader?
So I think in my capacity, so I lead the digital business and as well as oversee the digital transformation office, which include the business models, the data analytics, and as well as the regional expansion. Now, first and foremost, this is a role which you must be prepared to push the boundary, right? Because this is the purpose, right? The
part of the job, right?
Exactly, right? And with that in mind, then you must be prepared to go out, not just to disrupt, right? You must be prepared to go out to convince and to influence why this new possibility is the future. I think this is, I've been saying this a couple of times because this is what is this about, right? It's really not about just creating something novel and then setting up a lab and then we are quite happy with the work that we do within the lab. I think ultimately, these ideas must amount to a certain future business. I think that's a very important point. And very, very often, right? Maybe just to put a quick example out of this, right? Just last year, when the COVID was still it was still on, especially in Singapore, I think we decided to run a very ambitious data curriculum for the entire organization, right? And as you would know, all training, right? Most immediate question that came back to me would be, why do we need to go through a data training? And I'm not a data scientist in your shop. I don't even deal with data, you know. So this immediately is just a very simple example, but it tells you how much alignment and how much convincing you need to do, right? Because for a data to work in an organization, actually you need everybody to understand what this is about. Everybody has data, but not all data is usable. If you don't understand what this data is for, right? If you don't have a data dictionary, you don't even know if you and I, if our definition of this specific data is the same, right? So we spend a lot of time working with our HR colleagues, working with the business units, and trying to convince everybody to come on board, because this is almost the foundation setting. And what better time to do than in the year where, you know, things are slower and things are in the lockdown stage. We thought it's a perfect time to double down. In fact, we did all this during the pandemic period. We always think never waste a crisis, you know. No. So we go all out, right? So I think really to go straight to the heart of your question, I think you cannot run away, right? It's not just about having a great idea and trying to disrupt whatever that's working today.
For the sake of disruption.
Exactly. I think this is really, on a day-to-day basis, there's a lot of convincing and alignment that's ongoing, right? And I think the work that we do, hopefully over time, also illustrate possibilities, right? Because now people can see that, wow, now even I take 5,000 steps with the Apple Health app, I could just buy an insurance. Is this something you could imagine 2 years ago? No, answer is no, right? We do believe in the region. It's probably something unseen and arguably probably even global. Today, any Visa card you swipe, I could issue you a policy, right? Split seconds, right? So I think this is important because people begin to see possibilities, and now people start to embrace, hey, could I be part of it? Hey,
yeah.
If not, then, you know, the future is leaving me behind. How do I catch on with that? Yeah.
And I'm guessing as it evolves and people interpret it in different ways, it'll expand and grow even more. And to your point there, Peter, around the changes that you've made. I mean, you're right. During the last few years seemed to be the perfect time. And as you said, it's not just everyone in your department, it's the entire organization. Now, you've kind of touched on my next line of questioning around, you mentioned it's in your role to push the boundaries, right? It's in your job description. How is that helping with the culture? Because as you mentioned just now, your idea has to be good, and it is good. So that's a big tick. But now you've got that. How are you getting those people along? Those ones that said, I don't do data, it's not my role. Why are they talking to me? Does that require a lot of patience, or how do you navigate that? Because they're not necessarily in your team, right?
That's right. I think first and foremost, the leadership team has to be very aligned for such work. And in Income, we encourage bottom-up innovation, and we always drive the culture of agility. Now, every Income employee today, across all levels, even before the pandemic, undergo a series of design thinking courses, and we push out the data curriculum recently. And all this is to shape, in our opinion, the employees of the future, right? Every employee counts, and how the employee would sharpen their problem-solving skills, how they put on a customer lens is important. And that alone is not enough, right? What my team do, in fact, in a yearly basis, we hold a lot of accelerator program, right? Both internally and externally, because that opens up, a lot of possibilities, because outside in has its different slant, right? When you bring certain innovation from outside, and it could be from another industry, could be from a startup. So we hold an innovation week every year, and then we invite startups. Sometimes we also talk about cross-functional team within Income. So they have a sense of internal, how the working mechanics like. You start to hear people. And our recent foray into the region, in fact, is a very important one, because as you know, for a company who has been in a single country, this foray into the region opens up two things. And it's a two-way traffic. First, you begin to tap on talent that is beyond the shore of Singapore, obviously. Even today, as a single country, we are tapping on talents all over. But it cannot beat now when you have projects and you have bigger ideas in the different parts. Obviously, you're going to tap on the talent pool.
Yeah.
Now, it opens up also possibilities for people in Singapore today, the 1,800 employees we have in Singapore. Second, but as they start to interact with this talent pool, I can tell you the possibilities is really endless, right? Because this is where they begin to see, hey, what is possible? We have done this in Singapore. How do we customize this product? How do we think about it differently? And we cannot think that we know the market better than them, because obviously I go to Indonesia, I need to work with the locals, right? And the same as Vietnam, same as Malaysia. So over the last couple of months, all this experience tell us that this exchange is going to create a lot of value, and this will open up really endless possibilities.
And best of luck as you continue to do that. I think the acceleration that you've had in the last few years, it's great to see it. That influence and that best practice rolling out across the key markets in ASEAN. Now, final one, Peter, a lot of projects, a lot of innovation, a lot of change mindset, a lot of positives going on in the business. How are you? Communication is one side for leaders. I think that's crucial. And you mentioned before alignment with the team. How are you keeping people up to date with everything that you're doing? I mean, I know we've just chatted here about it, but that's kind of my job, right? So to do this, but how are you plugging the team along when you have those key wins, when you're getting those rollouts? Because I think a key part of it is the communication as well, right?
That's right. So many ways, as you rightly pointed out, communication is actually one of the key things that we need to do, and we need to do it well. So at a team level within my shop, I think I attend even the project team stand-up meetings. I'll communicate, and even at the ideation stage, I get myself involved. And it's a very delicate balance, right? About involving as well as allowing the team to evolve and, you know, shape the idea as they go along. As we rightfully pointed out right from the earlier conversation, the answer doesn't lies with me, neither does the answer lies with the team, right? The answer really lies with how the customer will be seeing this, right? What kind of insight can we get from the consumer? Now, beyond my team, in Income, we hold a town hall session with all employees twice a year. And during this session, typically, we would share not just how the business is performing, we celebrate the wins, embrace the failures, and we share various initiatives and projects that has been done. And the work we do, as I mentioned earlier, one of the first product that we brought overseas, we call Droplet. In fact, when we launched the product 3 years ago, I think it really changed the mindset of our people, because we are talking about insurance that covers the rain, right? Literally. So a person who take a Grab ride today, when it rains, you see, you know, you have a spike in fee, right? But if you buy this product beforehand, and if it rains, I'm going to cover. And you realize that it's not about the features of this product. When we first launched this product, the idea is to show possibilities. Now we are covering rain. On top of that, the product that we built is almost built such that the product runs by itself. Meaning, the moment a claim is submitted, this product is designed such that we'll check the weather. Did it rain at this point? Where did you bought? It's not a typical insurance product where we have a claim assessor who will ask you to submit a couple of forms, and you know. But of course, it's a different type of product, right? Granted, but I think it's a product that you show people that this is possible. And do you need to develop such product? Answer is no. But the moment you open out these possibilities, actually you have 2,000 employees behind you thinking about things every day. And in this bottom-up innovation is much more powerful than the top-down one. So I think all these sessions through sharing and through the work we do, I think in one way or another, we hope people can see it. And people can see us failing. We have products that we bring to a market.
This is important, yeah.
This is not working. How we pull back from the market, how we tell the guys, say, hey, look, these are things that we didn't do too well. These are the things we didn't expect. And these are the things that the customer, for whatever reason, didn't resonate versus the earlier experiment that we've done. And this is actually part and parcel. And how do you go to a point where you have the ability to accept this, share it out, and people really, you know, you don't build something to fail, but you build something and you test it, and you must be prepared to accept this will fail, right? So I think this is all very important learning, not just for the organization, for myself, for my team. So through all these sessions, I think this gave us, hopefully, slowly but surely, a mindset where people are open up to possibilities, and people would understand also there's nothing wrong with the traditional way of doing things. It's just that the traditional way of doing things will have to evolve with times, because the consumer is changing every day. Their behaviors is changing. And the company on where we are from, we are not the only one influencing the consumer. They are influencing by the digital platform that they deal with, you know, the fintech that they're seeing every day. So we must catch up in that sense, right? So hopefully this is what we are doing, and hopefully the organization would respond, and this mindset really is the most important thing.
Peter, I'll leave on that keyword, mindset. I think you've articulated perfectly. Congratulations on a fantastic few years of innovation, that you're really pushing the boundaries in your sector and in your industry, and really leading the way in a lot of markets. And it's testament to the success of your team that you're now doing it in other markets as well. So best of luck across Southeast Asia as well. And congratulations again to the team. And thank you enormously for taking the time today, Peter.
Thank you, James. Thanks for having me. Thank you.